Lugay Liga Sada Asachile Jitu Swan Nan Titaji So Kubarega Upanupana Sikharana Siyalu Asati Kurega Yogina Diariha Don't take sign label. Second name, keep it up yet. There are knowledge, however. Knowledge, however, you see who likes it, however. The area, two kinds of like to get it, the area there, so I want. Chance of you, guitar. Go and shoot, get all of it, look at it, the woman who that's very much look at her. Then you look at her, maybe can look at it, the woman who the young boy look at her. Look at her for my leg weight. Yeah, keep you get all the idea, so I want to be on it. Exactly, you to the lower method. You did look at it, look at it. Jarega, look at it, look at it. Find out who is on the side. Magari Payamasa, Mama Pam. Kunao, Police of Maria Wazana. You are yogi, you are to the authority of Taijara. Not powerful for I think you know, you do never see you, you do see, say something, see them. Take it up, Korea, so that you do. Take it up, you see, that is exactly what you know. System of people. That they did you about it. Did a good piece of machine, you are 60 Jamua Sawadi, Dina, 60 people. Teacher, and then a good children to the chair. You handle it, you are young, I got children. Down the year that China was the thing you people lady, I have by Majona, and you know your lady. See the cities of SADHU here. Konya Brahma were to each other beyond but at the other side, they look at the look here also, we don't. They are started, they don't live. That is a level. The little house, body of the Pia, they don't have a hope. You use a alone never, they don't live by anyone. Down at the Jajana, the outside, Tauta, coming on it. Bobio, they say over the pure or whatever. In the Chetanjo, Chauko Muria body, Maria Tatia Chamla Barabi, Tatia Chaula, Yitila Holoki, set it up joy of her.
In previous days, Sayadawgyi spoke about how the 5 ruling faculties, beginning with faith, are sharpened. And among the 9 causes for this to happen, the first is Upanupananam Sankaranam Kayamewa Pasati. That is, that the mind and matter in one's body, they arise due to conditions and pass away. second by second, moment by moment. This is happening continually without a break in our being. One must understand this from a theoretical standpoint, and one must have faith that this is so, that this is true. All the things which we observe, these dhammas of mind and matter, are things which fall apart in their own time. And to accept this in a theoretical way is not acceptance due to seeing it in practice, but it is not blind faith either. It is something that one needs to accept with understanding. And on top of that, one needs to work in order to see it in one's practice. And in doing this, first of all, one needs to work with respect for the practice. When one works respectfully while one is working, but in between times does not. For example, the movements such as bending and stretching, changes in posture, while one is all these things also must be observed, not just our sitting meditation, not just our walking. And before coming into the hall today, Sayadawgyi observed a male yogi who went to his place and sat down without mindfulness. And that means that regarding the work of observation, there is either not respect or there is not continuity, constancy of working. One has to work without a break. The work needs to be constant. And if these two factors are complete, respect for the practice and continuity, then the yogi will, if these two are complete, then the yogi will start to develop knowledge stage by stage, for sure. Especially it is the case with the male yogis and the monks, that they do not pay attention in this continuous way. And for that reason, although people have been practicing for many days, some are not able to speak yet about what they come to know during their practice. If one practices with respect and with constancy, with continuity, then in 7 days one's faith will start to develop because of the development in one's practice. And so for this to happen, Sayadawgyi spoke to urge the yogis in using ordinary terms, not using scriptural language, but he has also lately spoken from the scriptures and in detail so that the yogis would understand more. And yesterday he reached the 3rd out of the 9 causes for sharpening the controlling faculties, the ruling faculties, and this is an important factor, and so today he will continue to speak about it.
Koko in one Machia Kawade Tati Dale Neva Swali Yao Suzone Tati Dale Neva Quajan Siksha Vidavoli, the gay she says female Swantati Yatati Dale Neva Hillary Nanny. Go you go down the pathetic is our ship. Go straight to you, pathetic is our ship. Koyan Siksha, we don't know later. Lanjang Mango, take a pain and Lango, life without Sayadawgyi U Panditabhivamsa. You know, but my little see you don't dare take you whatever. Sayadawgyi Nisi, you are it, you are it, Chansiada Yari, below down to the body. You need to go to the water go. A true sheep like the lamb, she will out of a true sheep, when you thin the lamb, she will out of the let you have it. Let us see you know, dear. Kawashi, do that I have she am a chairman. Kawadi, a chain, she would write she the singing of the Asido. Kuna Sodavina Jogare, Coco, Nene, also here to the volume of Sorami or Sovino. Lotte Ari, take the other. Utia to the Sula, Coco, also here. Lotte Ari, she will take the other.
Meditation practice is to develop the powers that can be developed from within one's being and to use them. The power of faith, which can discern and which can discard what is untrue and accept what is true. The power of courage to avoid doing what is unbeneficial and to undertake what is beneficial. Most people are cowardly in this respect regarding avoiding doing things which are not beneficial and regarding doing things which are beneficial until completion. The power to protect oneself, to guard oneself so that one doesn't do wrong. The power to collect one's mental powers, to make them unified, and the power to discern, to analyze, to know. These powers are weak in people, and therefore when one does something, when one has to do something for oneself or for others, when one has to undertake some type of task, one isn't able to analyze it, reflect on it wisely, and therefore one doesn't make the right decisions, can't walk along the straight path. So first of all, this ability to reflect every day, all the time, on what we are about to do, what we are about to say, what we are about to undertake in terms of planning. Is this thing beneficial or not? And if it's beneficial, is it suitable? This ability to reflect is something that every person in the world should possess. And if one has this ability to reflect on beneficiality and suitability, then one will put the necessary energy, the energies into one's mind, so that one can govern oneself and keep from harming others. Meditation practice is for putting these mental powers into the mind, the necessary mental powers.
SADHUဆိုတာရှည်စိတ်မပြတ်ကွက်လက်မရှိအောင်ပြုလုပ်တဲ့သဘောပါပဲအဝိချေရကရိယာလို့ဆိုရတယ်ဝိချေရဆိုတာဈာရမှာပြတ်တတ်တယ်အဝိချေရပရိချေရလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်ဈာရဲမှာမပြတ်တော့အဝိချေရလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်ဈာမပြတ်တာအဲ့လိုဖြစ်အောင်လုပ်ပါတယ်ဘာမဲ့စိတ်ထားပြီးတော့ဖောင်းလဲပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါလေးမပြတ်မမြတ်ဘုရားရဲ့အားဆိုင်ရမယ်ချိန်သားကြရမယ်အဲ့ဒီနှစ်ခုရဲ့နောက်မှာတတိယလည်းဖြစ်ပြီးတော့စိတ်အဆူဆီးမှုတွေလည်းရလာတာပဲအဲ့ဒါလေးရှေ့နဲ့နောက်နဲ့ဆက်ဆက်နေရပါတယ်ရှေ့မှနဲ့နောက်မှလည်းဆက်ဆက်နေရပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီဆက်ဆက်ကိုပြုတာကိုပဲSADHUကရိယာလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်သူအတိတ်ပဲဖွင့်ထားတာတော့အောက်ခြေကကရိယာလို့ဆိုပါတယ်ရှင်းဆက်မပြတ်ကွက်လက်မရှိရဘူးပြုခြင်းမကလေးဘောမှုပင်ဝါစမှတ်လို့အဲ့ဒါလေးစပေါ်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်စပေါ်လာတဲ့ဟာလေးဈာထဲမှာမပြတ်ရအောင်လေသူ့လိုအလားတူဟာလေးနောက်ထပ်တစ်ချိန်နောက်ထပ်တစ်ချိန်များစွာပေါ့ဒီခုလေးတစ်ခုဆက်ဆက်နေကွက်လောက်ဖြစ်အောင်လုပ်အောင်ဒီမှာဒါတဲ့ရေးကြည့်ပါလေအဲ့လိုစဉ်းစားမပြကွက်လောက်ဖြစ်အောင်စိတ်အားစိတ်ချိန်လောက်ကြပေးနေရင်မမီတော့လည်းသိတာပဲဒီမှာစိုက်ကြတော့လည်းသိတာပဲလွတ်တော့လည်းသိတာပဲမဆက်ဘူးဆိုတော့လည်းသိတာပဲဟုတ်ဖြစ်တယ်။လက်ပြကြည့်နေတာကိုကြည့်ပြီးတော့ဒါစက်တာလည်းကြည့်တယ်၊ခွက်လက်ဖြစ်တာလည်းကြည့်တယ်။အခုတာမန်ခပ်ပေါ့ပေါ့လို့တော့စက်မှလည်းမသိဘူး။တပည့်နဲ့တမတ်နဲ့တမတ်ကပ်မှလည်းမသိဘူး။လွတ်မှလည်းမသိဘူး။အဲ့လိုဖြစ်နေပါဘူး။ရိုသေကြီးအထုတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကတော့ရှင်းနေတော့ဆက်ဆက်ကိုကြိုးစားနေတော့ဓမ္မနဲ့ဓမ္မဆက်ဆက်တာတွေလည်းပဲကောင်းကောင်းနားလည်ပြီးတော့တခါတခါလွတ်လို့ရှိရဲ့လွတ်မှတည်ရဲ့လွတ်လို့ရှိတည်ရဲ့အဲ့လိုတည်ရပါကမ္ဘာဆရာကိုလည်းပဲတင်ပြနိုင်တယ်ဘုံဘုံမှတ်တဲ့အခါမှာဘယ်လိုဖျားဆိုတာပေါ့ဒီမပုံကအစသူခံစားချက်တွေပေါ့ဒီအပြည့်ဝပါနေတာ
SADHU in Pali means to work constantly without a gap. And it is explained also as aviccheda. That means to not have any breaks, to not have any gaps in between things. So one puts one's mind on the abdomen, and every rising, every falling, one tries to apply ardent effort and accurate aim each time as soon as the object arises. And following on ardent effort and accurate aim, there is sati and collectedness of mind. These happen when one noting is following another. The notings are happening without a gap. And making one's observation, one's moments of observation continuous like this is what is meant by working constantly, or SADHU, working so that there is no gap. So when one observes the rising when it arises, and then so that what has started does not just end there, one tries to make the next noting happen too. Once one notes one thing, one tries to follow it by another noting immediately. so that what is started will not be broken. And when one applies ardent effort and accurate aiming, then one will know what one is doing. One will know the times when the mind connects accurately with the object, falls collectedly on the object, and one will know when one misses. So one will know the times that one is continuous, and one will also know the breaks in one's continuity. If one works in a superficial way, then one will not know whether one is with the object or whether one is missing the object. One won't be aware of the parts where there's continuity or the parts where there's a gap. The people who practice with respect for the practice try to be applying ardent effort and aiming all the time, and therefore they know when they're able to do this, and they also know when they miss. They know as soon as they miss. And this is the way one has to develop the practice. And such yogis are also able to explain to the teachers fully what it is they experience as they go about trying to observe the rising and the falling time and again. People in the olden days, before there were matches, before there was electricity, when they needed a fire, they had to rub dry sticks together. And when they did this a lot, rubbing two dry sticks together, applying effort constantly, the sticks would get hot. And when it would get hot enough, then fire would break out. And then they could use that fire to relieve the cold or to cook or boil something. And the person who started a fire in this way had to work continually, constantly. They could only stop when the fire finally broke out. Yogis, too, are like this. They have to work in this constant way. They have to work to observe every arising object, applying ardent effort and accurate aim, so as to always be coming into contact with the object, to always be rubbing against the object. And they aren't able, if they stop, it won't be effective. Just like the person trying to start a fire by rubbing two sticks, if that person stops, there won't be any possibility of the fire breaking out. And without the fire, one won't be able to do the work. So in the old days, this is what people had to do. They had to work continuously, constantly, to work at getting the fire started. And only when the sticks were hot enough would fire break out. So yogis are like this person trying to start the fire. So they have to, from the very moment they wake up in the morning until the final moment when they fall asleep at the end of the day, they have to observe every action. They have to observe what they do, lifting, moving, placing, bending, stretching, opening the eyes, closing the eyes. So all the actions that one makes must be observed. And only if one's observation is constant will the obsessive defilements, the pariyotana kilesas, be suppressed. And if one stops, then the mind won't be warm. If one stops one's observation, if there are breaks, then just like the two sticks become cool and the fire can no longer break out, so too the mind becomes cool. And when it's cool, it's not able to prevent the kilesas from coming in. This is what happens.
ဘောအစဉ်တန်ညီမကြီးအတွက်ကျိုးကောင်းဖို့ရပုံလေးရောက်လာကြတော့ဒီဘောအစဉ်တန်ညီမကြီးအတွက်ကျိုးကောင်းတဲ့အခါမှာနီလန်းတကယ်ရေးစားလို့ဘောလေလူရှိရပါတယ်ရေးစားနေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကအဲ့ဒီခိုက်တာမှဆိုရေတောက်ဖို့ပဲဒါပဲသူစိတ်ဆောတယ်တပြည့်ဘာမှတတိပြဘူးရေတောက်ဖို့ပဲရေရဖို့ရေစားလို့ရှားပါလေရေတောက်လာလို့မုတ်တဲ့ရေရဖို့ဒီပြောက်လို့ဖို့အဲ့ဒီခိုက်တာပဲအဲ့ဒီလိုမျိုးရှိရပါတယ်တရားပေါ်မှာစာလုံးနဲ့စိတ်ကြည့်ရှိရတယ်ဒါသိအရေးကြီးပါတယ်ဒီနည်းနဲ့လို့ဒီလိုကြိုးရတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ယုံကြည်တဲ့အပေါ်မှာစာလုံးနဲ့ဘောလေးပါတယ်စာလုံးနဲ့ဆိုတာဆန္ဒပါတယ်လို့ချင်းချင်းဒီတရားကြီးလည်းတိဋ္ဌာကြီးလည်းသိပြီးတော့ယုံကြည်မှုအပြည့်အဝနဲ့စာလုံးနဲ့သဘောနဲ့ပေါ့လေလုံးမဝိရိယလာပါတယ်သမဝိရိယမလာပါဘူးဝိရိယလာလို့ရှိရင်လည်းတတိဓမ္မတိဆိုတာနောက်ပြန်သူ့ဘာသူလိုက်လာတာပါပဲဓမ္မဒါလည်းသိအရေးကြီးပါတယ်ဓမ္မနောက်တော့ဥပဒနာဉာဏ်ကြီးဖြစ်လာတာပဲအဲဒီလိုဥပဒနာဉာဏ်ကြီးအခြေကားဆောက်ပြီးတော့ဆင့်ဆင့်ပြီးတော့ပြည့်စုံသွားဖို့ရတဲ့ဒီအစာပြုကျိုးပါအထောက်မှုဒီအစဉ်တိုးရဲ့အပြည့်မှလုံးရောက်ကျိုးပါအထောက်မှုသုံးအစဉ်တိုးရဲ့ကိုမျှော်မှန်းတဲ့ပန်းနဲ့ရောက်တဲ့ဒီကျိုးပါအထောက်မှုရဲ့အဲဒီကျိုးပါအထောက်မှု၃စိတ်ရှိရပါတယ်အဲဒီ၃စိတ်ပြည့်အောင်အထောက်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဒါစัจ jjat ကရိယာလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်စစ်စစ်မပြတ်လုံလဝရိယကျိုးပါအထောက်သူရဲ့ဆိုပါတယ်
To know the mind and matter in us which are related as cause and effect, first of all one has to know their natural characteristics called sabhava lakkhana. And to know this, one needs to observe every arising object without a gap. One has to try to bring about this type of constant observation. And at first, it's not possible to have continual observation. But one should make up one's mind that I'm not going to miss. One should simply just hold that attitude. For one to develop this constant effort, one needs to have effort on three levels, three kinds of effort. The Buddha himself spoke about this. The first is called aramba dhatu, that is initial effort. The second is nekkhamma dhatu, that is the stepped up effort needed to overcome difficulties. And the third is parakhamma dhatu, that is effort which goes up stage by stage, progressively until it reaches the goal. So regarding the initial effort, the yogis have come here wanting a way to elevate their life, wanting a way to make themselves truly human, to have a humane mentality, and to develop special human knowledge. So coming here to do this, one wants to have a method for doing this. And just like when a person is thirsty and nothing will do unless the person can have a glass of water, so too, in order to practice, one needs to have this thirst for the Dhamma. So one not only needs to have faith in the method that what one wants can be gained through this method, one also has to have what is called chanda, or desire, that is this thirst to gain the results that come from the method. from practicing. Because only if one has the desire to gain the results will one make effort, that is, apply virya, effort. And when one applies effort, sati and samadhi automatically come about. One doesn't need to deliberately create these. And also wisdom comes later on. So for vipassana knowledge to develop stage by stage, what one needs to have first of all is initial effort, and second of all, stepped up effort to overcome difficulties, and third, successive effort to reach the goal. One needs all three levels of effort, and the person who works to develop these three stages of effort is one who works in this constant way, one who works with saddhacakirya.
ကိုယ်ဘဝအတွက်အစိမ့်မြင့်တဲ့အနေထားမျိုးရောက်ရှိနိုင်တဲ့နိလန်းတည်တည်ကြကြသိထားပြီးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီနိလန်းတိုင်းအထုတ်လို့ဘဝစိတ်ဓာတ်ကြီးမြင့်တယ်လို့သိကြလို့နားလည်တာလို့ရှိရင်တတိရှိရတယ်ဝိရိယဆိုတတိရှိရတယ်သိကြည့်ကြည့်ခက်ခဲနဲ့တွေ့လို့ရှိရင်တော့မဆိုးရဘူးဒါလည်းသိကြည့်ကြည့်တယ်ဒါကိုယုတ်တပယုတ်တအာရမဓာတုနိဂမဓာတုခေါ်ပါတယ်နိဂမဓာတုခြားကြောင်းမှာပေါ့လေအထုတ်နေရင်ကအကျိုးမျှော်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေပေါ့လေထူးခြားတဲ့အကျိုးလေးကပေါ်မလာဘူးပေါ်လာတာတွေတော့မခံနိုင်ဘူးတရားဒါတွေကပေါ်လာတာအရုပ်ဆာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဥပဒနာရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာဒုက္ခဝေဒနာစပြီးတော့တွေ့တတ်ပါတယ်။ငါကတိခတ်လေးလည်းနည်းပြီဒီတရားအားထုတ်ရနိုင်တဲ့အကျိုးကိုလည်းပဲသိပြီးတော့မျက်နှာမှုမရှိဘူးဆိုရင်တော့ခဏခဏရွှေ့လိုက်ပြင်လိုက်ကြောင်းလိုက်လုပ်တာပဲ။ဒါသမာဓိရဖြစ်တော့သမာဓိဖြစ်တော့ဉာဏ်ကဘယ်လာမလဲဘယ်ရောက်မှလာတော့ဥပဒနာဉာဏ်ဖြစ်တော့ဒါမျိုးကြတော့ဆွဲရှိရပါလေခုနအပြင်းဝင်လာလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီအပြင်းဝင်လာလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီအပြင်းကိုနိုင်နေအောင်ကိုယ်ဆွဲရှိရပါလေမဆွဲဘူးမပြောင်းဘူးဆိုတော့ဘောလို့စိတ်ကလည်းပဲစောင့်ကြည့်ရပါလေဒိဋ္ဌာန်လည်းပြုရပါလေဆုတ်ချက်ချက်လည်းချပါလေရှစ်တိုးမယ်ရှုပ်ပြီးအဲ့လိုပေါ့အဲ့လိုလုပ်လို့ရှိရင်ခုနအခက်ခဲတွေ့လို့ဆုံးလက်တဲ့စိတ်ကလေးဟာအဲ့ဒါတဖြည်းဖြည်းမှိမ့်ပြီးတော့ပြောက်ွယ်သွားတော့မခံတဲ့ဝေဒနာကိုရှုလို့အဲ့ဒါကြော်သွားပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ရုပ်ရည်လည်းကြော်သွားတော့ပဲအဲ့ဒီနိဂမဓာတ်ရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဇွဲတတိရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်အဲ့ဒါကြော်တာပဲသူကတော့အဲ့ဒီပိုင်းလောက်ရောက်သွားလို့ရှိရင်ယောဂီကတရားထုတ်ရပြောလာတယ်စစ်တက်သွားတယ်အဲ့တော့ဉာဏ်ရှင်တွေတက်သွားတဲ့အခါဉာဏ်ရှင်မပြည့်စုံသေးပဲနဲ့ထွက်သွားပြန်လည်းမကောင်းဘူးအဲ့ဒီကြတော့ပရိက္ခမဓာတုတဲ့ကိုညှော်မနဲ့ပန်းတယ်ရောက်တဲ့အထိစစ်ကြိုးစားရမယ်အဲဒီဝိရိယဓာတ်၃မျိုးနဲ့ပြည့်စုံတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာအခုလိုတရားတွေအားထုတ်လို့ရှိရင်ဘဝအတွက်တည်ကြတဲ့အမြတ်တွေထွက်တတ်ပါလေအဲဒီအမြတ်တွေထွက်အောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ဘုန်းကြီးတို့တွေကတန်တရာဆွေမျိုးတီဗီဓမ္မဆွေမျိုးတီဗီပေါ့လေအခုကြီးပေးနေတာပါဆရာလောက်တာမဟုတ်ပါဘူးအခုကြီးပေးတာပါအဲ့ဒီအခုကြီးတွေကိုကိုယ်ကဝတ်တော်မြောင်းနဲ့လက်ခံရှင်းသုံးလို့ရှိရင်ကိုယ်မှာအကျိုးကျေးဇူးဖြစ်နေပါလား
If one knows a method which brings benefit for one's life, And if one understands that if one practices according to this method, it will elevate one's life, then one should be courageous about applying the method. There should be courageous effort, especially in the face of difficulties. And this is what is meant by the term yota payota, that one engages in not only aramba dhatu, the initial effort, but also the increased effort, stepped up effort, nekkhamma dhatu, to overcome the difficulties. What can happen is that one has been practicing, but one hasn't yet seen the results of one's work. And at the start of practice, when we do vipassana practice, it's easy for pain to arise. Discomfort arises early in the vipassana practice. If one's patience is naturally weak, and one also doesn't have faith, then one will change one's posture every time there's pain. And when one changes the posture, there's no chance for concentration, samadhi, to arise. So how can knowledge arise if concentration is not there? There's no way. So that one has to have courage. One has to have determination not to move. One has to make a decision that I'm not going to move. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to face this. And if one does this, when one faces the difficulty, if one prepares oneself with this type of determination, when the difficulty arises, then one's tendency to back off will get weaker and weaker. And when one overcomes discomfort, painful feelings, vedana, then one will become happy. So people with determination are those who can overcome pain. The yogi becomes happy, and then knowledge develops stage by stage. So if knowledge develops like this, then it's not good to stop in the middle. One should keep on going until one reaches the goal that one has set for oneself. And this is called parakama dhatu, the effort which increases successively until one reaches the goal. So one who has these three stages of effort, one who develops these three stages of effort, is sure to gain profit on one's life. One gains a sure profit for one's life. And for the yogis to be able to do this, Sayadawgyi is helping the yogis who he sees as his relatives within samsara. And if the yogis are able to accept the Dhamma gift, then it will be beneficial for the yogis.
စိတ်ကံကုန်မဲ့မရောက်ရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ဖုန်းနဲ့ပြင်နေမှာအများနဲ့တဲ့ရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ရွေစုထားတယ်ဒီမှာချိန်ထားတယ်ချိန်ထားတော့ကာမဂုဏ်တော့ပြီးကာမဂုဏ်အရုပ်ပဲလည်းမရောက်တော့ဓမ္မဥဒိလည်းမလာတော့သူများကိုဒုက္ခပေးခြင်းလားဝိဇ္ဇာဝိတ္တဆိုတာလည်းမလာတော့သူများကိုဖြစ်စီခြင်းလားဒေါသတွေလုံခဲ့လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒေါသဖြစ်စီခြင်းတော့ဇဘရဝိတ္တလည်းမလာတော့ဆိုးရုံအောက်တန်းကြတဲ့ဥတည်ချက်တွေဘာမှမရှိတော့ဘူးဒီမှာလည်းခါရဲဥတည်ထားတဲ့စိတ်ကစိုက်ထားတာဘယ်လိုကောင်းချက်ချင်းကျိုးရတာလဲဒီမှာဒါပါပဲလည်းငင်းကျိုးရတာပဲဒီမှာဝိရိယရှိတော့အပြင်းနိုင်တယ်ဒီမှာစိုက်ထားတဲ့ခါကျတော့စိတ်အချာကချုပ်တော့မဟုတ်သွားဘူးဟောတတိလေးနောက်ကလိုက်လာတာပဲတတိလိုက်လာတော့စိတ်ချင်းဇာကဒေါသဝင်ရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ကာဝယ်ထားတယ်ရက်ခဆိုအဝရဏပိတ်ထားတယ်ပိတ်ဆို့ထားတယ်ဂုတိလုံချုံနေတယ်ချက်ချင်းကျိုးရတာပဲသုတ္တမြတ်ရှိမမီရအာရုံကတတိလေးကတ်သွားပြီဆိုရင်ဒီစိတ်ပဲမှပြေတော့ဒီမှာပဲတခါလေးစိုက်ကြနေတာပဲမမီတော့ဒီထဲမှာစိုက်ကလေးကြာနေတာပဲခဏကတမာရီလည်းဖြစ်လာတာပဲဘုရားခဏကတမာရီကြောင့်ပြောခဲ့ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီဖြစ်တဲ့အခါမှာကာမဂုဏ်အာရုံကြီးစိတ်ကမရောက်ဘူးလေကာမဝတ္တတိလည်းဖြစ်တော့ဘုရားကောင်းလာတယ်အမှန်တရားသင်ရှားတာပဲစိတ်လည်းမပြတ်တော့ဘူးခင်ဗျာလက်ကောင်းတော့တစ်ချက်မှတစ်ချက်ဒီဟာလေးတွေအင်္ဂါလေးတွေစုံသွားလို့ရှိရင်ချက်ချင်းလည်းနောက်ကနေအကျိုးကလိုက်လာတာအဲ့ဒါကြီးတွေ့ရပါတယ်ပိုးဝဆဆလုံးမဲ့တစ်ခါနဲ့တစ်ခါလည်းကွာလိမ့်မယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အဲ့ဒီကွာတဲ့နေရာမှာတော့အဲ့ဒီအကျိုးလေးဆုံးရှုံးသွားပါတယ်ဆုံးရှုံးနေတာသွားတယ်စစ်စောက်မှလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီအကျိုးတွေမြတ်တွေထွက်လာတယ်ပိုးဆဆလုံးလို့ရှိရင်ကြတော့လို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီအကျိုးတွေဆုံးရှုံးသွားတယ်မြို့တိထိုင်ထအကွေးစလှုပ်ရှားလူမှုမလို့မဟုတ်ဘဲနဲ့ပိုးဝဆဆလုပ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေနေတိုင်းပေါ့လေအမျက်တွေထွက်ရမယ်အစားအရှုံးဘက်ကများပါရဲ့ဒါမှမဟုတ်ဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်ကြာနေတာသူတို့ကိုတွေ့ကြုံချက်ကလေးတွေရှားထားမှမတင်ပြနိုင်ကြပဲဖြစ်နေတယ်
Whatever work we do, if we work with the correct objective and with concentration, benefits will arise. So now we're engaging in initial effort to start the practice, stepped up effort to overcome difficulties, and effort that increases stage by stage to reach the goal. There won't, this effort will not be for nothing. So try to observe every rising, every falling, every other object, applying ardent effort and accurate aim. With ardent effort, the mind won't be retracted, the mind won't be slack or sluggish. It will be ready, and no laziness will be able to enter the mind. We should have the attitude that laziness is one of the basest, the lowest forms of consciousness. And when we apply effort to observe the object, this effort takes the place of laziness. Laziness can't get into the mind. And therefore the mind won't go to sense pleasures. So that the mind won't go to sense pleasures on every object we try to apply accurate aim, as well as ardent effort. And then the mind doesn't go to thoughts of things, to objects that it likes, and to thoughts of things that it likes. And one also The mind doesn't go to thoughts about wanting to harm others, which is a form of anger. And one also has no bad objective, because the mind is being placed on the object. So this is the immediate benefit that the yogi gains from the practice. And when one makes full effort, then the mind is alert, and sati follows the application of effort. Sati protects the mind. It keeps greed and anger from entering into the mind, and this is called rekha. First of all, it prevents them from coming in, and it blocks off the way. It's like closing the door from these things so they can't get in, avarana. And this creates security, goti. This is the benefit that one gains immediately from doing the practice. With the quality of sati, the mind sticks to the object, therefore it doesn't run anywhere, and the mind falls collectively time and again on the object. This is momentary concentration, kanika samadhi, which Sayadawgyi spoke about before. With this, the mind doesn't go to any desirable sense objects, nor does it go to thoughts about sense objects. The mind doesn't scatter. So if moment after moment these factors are complete, then the benefit will come immediately. But if one works in a superficial way, so that in between moments of observation there are gaps, then in that space one will lose the benefit. So instead of at that moment one does not gain a profit. When one can work constantly, then one will gain a profit. But when one doesn't have respect for the practice and consequently stands up quickly without observing, sits down quickly without observing, doesn't do things the way, slowly the way an invalid, a very weak person would do, then instead of gaining a profit, one most of the time will be incurring a loss. So in that case, the yogi won't be able to speak about what they observe, what they experience when they need to report to the teacher.
Yoga, Sabyo Jovato, the Sindoy Pimalunga Jovato, the Sidney Doy Panero de Jovato, Ishidu Wapandu, Kerawa Yogi Kora, Pavana Yuda Payuda Yogi Savara, Kera Pida Yogi, the Yachin Yogi body. Yogi Boku, the Gregor Tiago Genito, the Gregor Lunetu Dura, Lulusita Jena, looking at children, look at the kitchen, the Yogi. The fit of ဒီတော့ဒီတရားအထုတ်တော့မယ်ဆိုရင်တကယ်ယောဂီဖြစ်ရေးအတွက်ဘာတွေလိုတယ်လဲဘာတွေဖြစ်ရမလဲဆိုတာဘုန်းကြီးတို့ကပြောပြဖို့တောင်းရှိပါလေပြောပြတဲ့အတိုင်းခုနလူပိသားလိုလူစိတ်ထားတဲ့လူပညာရှိပြီးတော့လူတက်လူဖြစ်လို့တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ရာညံ့ညံ့နုံတို့ရိုးသေးသေးလေးလေးစစနဲ့စိတ်ဆက်ဆက်လုပ်ပဲအဲ့ဒါလို့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ပြီးတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကလည်းသိဝန်တော့ပါလေအဲယောဂီလုပ်ပြီးသေးဆိုရင်ယာနုပြီးပြင်းတဲ့ယောဂီဖြစ်အောင်ကြိုးစားအထောက်နိုင်ကြပါစေလို့ဒီနေ့လေးလေးနဲ့တိုက်တွန်းရင်းနဲ့တရားဆုံးသတ်လိုက်ပါလေ
To develop vipassana knowledge, to see how every object of mind and matter arise and then pass away. Starting with the rising and the falling, one has to observe every arising object with ardent effort and accurate aim. And then sati and samadhi will follow. Then knowledge will follow, and this is called bhavana. Bhavana is the work which creates the clean mind. It's work which causes vipassana knowledge to arise stage by stage. And the knowledge is the result. The knowledge that comes is the result of work that is in Pali called yoga. That is the work of making initial effort to start the practice, stepped up effort to overcome the goals, the difficulties, and effort that goes up stage by stage to reach the goal. This is what is meant by yoga. And a person who possesses these 3 stages of effort is called a yogi. One who possesses these 3 stages. It is said bhavanaya, yota, payotataya di yogi. The word yogi comes about, it means literally that one who is engaged in these 3 levels of effort. Initial effort, stepped up effort, and effort to reach the goal in the work of bhavana. And this, the 3 levels of effort come to be in the person who really wants to be truly human, who really wants to make one's mentality humane, and who really wants to develop special human knowledge, although they are already human. And Sayadawgyi, for his part, has the responsibility to explain what is needed in order to bring about this result. If the yogis are able to work with respect for the practice and constantly, then those who give the instructions are very happy. So may you all be able to work so that you can be called true yogis. That's all for today.